topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Join your host, who is a multiple #1 international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer. She's the founder of Genuinely Hyphen You and has 30 years experience of helping people step into their genuine, authentic power. And now, here is Gina Gardner, your host of Leadership for Life.
Hello there, and a huge welcome to today's show. Got a great guest for you, Riana Avis. Today we're going to be talking about money. Isn't it interesting how many people have a toxic relationship with money? They don't have enough, or if they have money coming through their hands, they can't hold on to it. It's at the heart of it. Our beliefs about money run the way in which we think and the way in which we behave around money. And our patterns of behavior are going to make a huge difference in terms of how abundant we are financially or not, but also the ceiling that we put on our abundance, our financial abundance. And today, whilst we talk about abundance in a holistic way normally, today, our focus is going to be on money. Now, many people believe that their self-worth is actually equated to their net worth. I'll feel good about myself when my bank balance is healthy. People will think better of me if my bank balance is good. When the reality is that your self-worth and who you are, your value as a person, has little to do with your value in terms of how many dollars or pounds or yen or whatever the currency is that you have in your bank balance. And the other thing that I think is really important is that money is simply a form of energy, and an energy that we can use in a transaction to buy stuff or to buy other people's time, expertise, experience. And for me, money is not just about what you have in your bank balance, but it's what you do with it. And so the person who has very little and actually helps other people, by giving to charity or by using their time, and time is money, to help other people, for me, they have a much richer approach to life than those who count their money and do nothing with it. The story of King Midas is a really great one. To remind you, those of you that aren't familiar with it or have forgotten it because nobody's told it to you for years, is King Midas wanted to feel good about himself. He wanted to see himself as an important king. And he believed that his importance was tied entirely to his value in terms of gold and jewels and money. And he had an opportunity to make a wish. And the wish was that everything he touched would turn to gold. And in the first instance, when he touched the table and it became gold bullion, he was ecstatic. He thought, great, this wish is working. But when he touched his daughter and his daughter turned to gold, it was a very different matter. He recognized that money, wealth in and of itself isn't what's important. However, we do need enough to live, and many people are going through huge hardship. I was talking to somebody only this week who within the next couple of weeks will have no money for their mortgage, for food and so on. And they, as you can appreciate, are absolutely struck in panic. The problem with that is that when we are in panic mode, when we are in lack mode, we are energetically sending out a message which says that's what we want. And so being able to recognize that money is energy and how you think and how you act are both incredibly important in terms of whether you're going to attract money and whether you're going to keep money. There are certain groups of people who seem to find it particularly difficult to charge their worth. I work a lot with empaths and with therapists, people who are in holistic therapies, for example, and they often find it incredibly uncomfortable to charge. And yet they'd go into the local shop and they would expect to pay for the products in their basket. Or if they had a plumber come and sort out their boiler, or an engineer come and sort out their car, they would expect to pay them. So I want you to start off by thinking to yourself, what are my beliefs about money? How many of those beliefs have come from my parents? You know, I can just hear my dad now, for example, saying money doesn't grow on trees. You know, my parents, we always had enough to eat. We always had enough, but very often I had hand-me-down clothes from my sister, and there wasn't a lot of spare cash. And my dad did 2 or 3 jobs because he was a teacher and they weren't well paid. And when they decided to buy their own house rather than living in rented accommodation, council accommodation, they had to save. And so their attitude towards money was really very much around, you've got to hold on to it, you've got to husband it, it's really difficult, you've got to work incredibly hard in order to create money, and then you've got to hold on to it. And what I realise is, yes, of course, you do need to work in order to earn a salary, but there are lots of ways of attracting finances into your life. Not for a moment suggesting that you go and take it from someone else. But when you are really in flow, when you have a really great belief about money, that is that you deserve it, that the universe is abundant, and you behave in a way that doesn't waste money by buying stuff you don't need or getting into debt and then paying compound interest, then you are far more likely to find yourself being abundant. Now, Rihanna's got lots and lots of experience of helping people have a very different relationship with their money and helping them to take control of their lives and, as a result, take control of their money. So when we come back after the break, I'll introduce Riana to you, and we're going to explore her take on how you can master your money in a really constructive way. So don't go away. See you back in a minute.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-you.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, Accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for a Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email gina@genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hello there. I'm so excited to be able to introduce Riana to you. She and I both belong to an organisation called Collaboration Global, and those of you that listen to the show on a regular basis will have seen Jill Tiney, was my guest, who was able to talk about collaboration and the organisation. And it's a great place to meet people. Now, Riana is a very special lady. Let me read you her bio. Riana Avis is a business and money coach for therapists, healers, and helpers, helping them to get to grips with their businesses and their finances, foreign and stressful areas for most therapists. After several years as a radiographer, she retrained as an IT professional. Her IT career in the financial sector included all aspects of systems development, as well as business analysis, project management, and delivering training. Originally from South Africa, Riana now lives in the UK and works online with her clients, combining her paramedical and corporate experiences to help her clients achieve balance and ease in their business. And one of the things that struck me when I invited her in is I don't think there is anybody who doesn't want to take control of their life and their money to give themselves the very best foundation for an abundant and financially stress-free life. So without more ado, I'd like to welcome Riana.
Hi there, Gina.
Oh, it's so good to have you on the show. Before we get started in our discussion, I'd be really grateful if you'd share with our viewers and our listeners a bit about your background. It's an interesting one, isn't it? You know, medical and then IT and now working with therapists. What made you move from the world of IT to working with therapists and healers and so on?
Well, yes. How long have you got? But I'll make it short. So I'd been in IT for about 20 years by then, working for financial institutions. And, you know, there just comes a point in your life where you feel that there must be something else I can do. I want a less stressed life. IT can become very stressful. And I wanted to contribute more. And it was, well, what shall I do? How do I do that? And when I'd moved from South Africa to the UK, one of the things that I did to help myself was to do a coaching course. Now, I didn't realize that at the time, but it was like, here was something that really woke something up or reawakened something in me, because at heart, I'm a teacher. I want to help people. And so when I had enough of IT and they said to me, bye, Riana, you don't fit here anymore, I thought, okay, I'm set. I know what I want to do now. I want to do coaching. And I didn't want to know anything about business. I was going to be a life coach. But then as I met people and I talked about them about their business, it was there where I brought the value. It took me a long time to really acknowledge my knowledge about what I had learned in the business environment and bring it to my clients. And then eventually I had a client that was a therapist, and it was like, I've just landed in heaven is about the way I can explain it. There was just that immediate gelling, getting together, rapport, and one thing led to another. And I realized that because of my paramedical background, we have a natural connection. We have natural ways to talk about each other. And especially when I started working with occupational therapists as well, you know, I get them. Have that therapy mindset about wanting to help people. And it's not always about the money, as you said, it's more about helping people. So that's how I ended up being business and money coach for therapists, healers, and helpers.
It sounds really interesting because I do a lot of work with empaths who very often are in the holistic healing business, not always, but they are. And one of the things that I have noticed is a really common issue is they have real money difficulties at all sorts of levels and for all sorts of reasons. And I think it might be useful if you could share some of the common issues that you've noticed as you've worked with people, and then having shared those, your strategies for dealing with them.
Right. So the first sort of things I noticed was that when I talked to them about, so what about your fees? When last have you reviewed your fees? You know, it's like, no, I can't do that. I can't increase my fees. There's a reluctance. And then I started doing vision and strategy workshops. And again, when I asked them to set financial goals, they wouldn't set financial goals. Very, very reluctant. Those who had been in business for a while would set some, but others not at all. And then when you start thinking a little bit more about and talk to them about, I'm detecting there's a money issue here. And they say, oh, yes, well spotted, you know. And often it comes from, as you said, you know, in the prelude or preamble, the way that we've been brought up, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. Those kind of beliefs that I think empaths and those who really want to help seems to somehow embody more than other people for some reason. What that reason is, I don't know. But my experience of working with therapists, healers, and helpers is they just want to help. When money comes into the equation, it's like a part of their mind shuts off. It's like they don't want to even go there. It's like, it's almost like it puts them in a box. In some ways, it's hard to describe. Does that make sense?
It does. I think there's a number of issues, but the sort of things I've noticed is those people who believe that their work has a spiritual element to what they do.
Yes.
Have a belief that if it's spiritual, you mustn't charge, otherwise it stops being spiritual.
Yes.
Which I find quite interesting when you think of the abundance of the universe. I mean,
Yes.
Where does it come from? It comes from source. And
absolutely.
We'll talk about the abundance of the universe and how vibrationally people need to be aligned. And then there's this huge mismatch.
Yes.
But underpinning it, for me, I think the most common thing is lack of self-belief, lack of self-worth.
Yes.
Because when I say to somebody, okay, so you've been in business quite a while, do your clients get a benefit from it? Immediately they're very animated. Yes, they do. This happens and they have these breakthroughs and this is the difference. And then they go on to be really financially successful. And I said, well, do you actually follow your own advice, your own thinking? Do you model what you're demonstrating for your clients? And there's usually a very, very big silence as they think about it. And I then ask the question, what value do you believe that you have created with and for your client? And what value would you put on that if somebody gave you that value? And there seems to be a complete mismatch between, if I was getting that value from somebody else, then of course I'd pay, but if it's me, well, I'm not sure I can.
Yes, I've absolutely noticed that as well. In fact, last year I ran a 5-day challenge called Own Your Worth, Earn Your Value. Exactly around those topics that you've mentioned now. What value do you bring? What do you charge? Who do you have to be in order to charge more? 5% more, 10% more, etc., etc. And then I realized as well, it's that thing about self-worth. Because for some reason we think we're not good enough. somehow we've embodied that. We believe we are not good enough. It's something that I've battled with myself. Hopefully not as much anymore, but you never know when it comes and it hits you again, and you have to learn the lesson all over again. So one of the things that my future work holds is to work on self-worth and owning that self-worth. Definitely. Yes.
Don't you think that if you look at most issues that people are facing, somewhere in there, if it's not the main thing, somewhere in there, the relationship we have with ourselves and our self-belief is at the bottom of most of the challenges people have with money, with relationships, with success, with life in general.
Yeah, self-love. Absolutely. Self-love. We just don't love ourselves. We think when we love ourselves, it's an ego thing. It's like, I'm the big person. Look how I love myself. It's not about that. It's about appreciating yourself as you would appreciating someone else. I can look at you. I can see a beautiful person. I can appreciate your knowledge and your experience. But when it comes to looking at myself like that, it's much, much, much harder. Much harder.
Well, that's a belief, of course. But ultimately, I think if we treated it ourselves as we would a really valued friend, and those who've listened to the show regularly, I bang on about this, using the same criteria for ourselves as we do others, then we would all be much more, well, most of us would be more comfortable. There are very few who treat themselves better than they do others. They're often narcissists, but I think they're in the minority. Most people treat other people far better.
Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt you, go on.
So I just wanted to share that one of the exercises I did to help myself when I first came to the UK, because it was tough, was that exercise that Louise Hay teaches about mirror work. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. It made all the difference. It made all the difference. And in her book, she says what you just said there, that at the bottom of all our problems is a lack of self-love.
And I absolutely agree. What I find interesting, I believe that we are moving into a very different time, a different, there's a shift of consciousness and things are changing. And I believe it's absolutely vital that things do change. When you look at the news this week, for example, and the state of the planet in terms of global warming, we've all got to recognise that we have the power to make changes, but we have to start with ourselves. So one of the questions I'd like to ask you, imagine that I'm your business client, and we've talked about self-worth. Are there practical things that you give people to think about or to do in order to move themselves forward around this relationship with money?
Yeah, so I have, number one, my course on Master Your Money. So that's one of the things that I would talk about those principles with them. And I'll get them to do things like, what does money mean to you? What does wealth mean to you? What does abundance mean to you? Just simple things like that. And it's interesting to note how people experience that differently. And one of the exercises that I also do, I have a document of about 100 different beliefs around money. And I will say to them, okay, here's your homework. Go through this and 3-star or 4-star, all those that is, yes, this is so true for me. And, and if it's not so true, then maybe 2 stars or 3 stars. And then what is the opposite of that belief? If you had to change that, what would it be?
So it's into the positive,
yes. Absolutely, yes. And another thing that I like to share with them is to say, okay, there's a quote by Florence Scovel Shinn, that money comes to me easily and effortlessly. That's not all of the quote, but just begin to believe that, yes, this can happen. Yes, this can happen. I'm willing to be open, to be more comfortable with money. I'm willing to put a financial goal down. I'm willing to look at the numbers. How comfortable are you with your business numbers?
Yeah.
You know, do you actually know what you bring in, what your expenses are? Do you budget? And then the other thing that I sometimes find is that because they haven't done that kind of work, they're not sure how much to charge. So they undercharge. They want this particular kind of lifestyle, but the income does not support that lifestyle.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I do some strategic planning with people where I ask them to plan for 3 years and then plan backwards. It's a very specific structure to planning. But when we plan forwards from here to where we think we want to go, we often underestimate what we can do. And it tends to be quite reactive. Whereas if you start with where you want to get to and plan your way back, and the planning strategy I use is a little more complicated than that. What's interesting is you're setting the intention of where you want to be. And I always do it in a very holistic way. So it's not just about your business and your finances, but your health and your relationships and so on.
Absolutely, yeah.
But what strikes me, and I've spoken again about this a number of times, those people who follow Esther Hicks, and I don't know whether you're a follower of Esther Hicks, she talks about the vibration that you have in your vortex, and that whatever that vibration is, whatever that feeling is, that feeling that's generated by the belief, is what you will attract, because the universe is abundant, and it will facilitate us being abundant if we believe it will, and if we take the behaviors that go along with that. And it strikes me that, having the capacity to strategically plan where you want to be is a good thing.
Yes.
But one of the things that I found quite common is they'd say, in 3 years' time, I want to be earning X. And I'd say, okay, how many days a week do you want to work? They'd tell me. How many hours a day do you want to work? They'd tell me. How many clients can you work in a day? They'd tell me. So you want to earn, and what you're going to charge. And I then say, well, now do the maths. You want to be earning, for argument's sake, let's say 50,000. In 3 years, you want to be earning 50,000 a year, which is not an unreasonable amount.
No.
But then they want to work a 4-day week and a 6-hour day and see 2 clients and charge, I don't know, £35 or $50 a session. The maths simply doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't. No.
And it's quite a revelation that, in order to achieve X, there has to be activity that will contribute to that amount in a consistent way. Yeah. Is that something you find to be common too?
Yes, yeah. And I also do, when I do the strategic work, we look at 10 years, then we look at 3 years, then we look at the year and so on. And then we work either the budget or we work the numbers, as you've just discussed. It just often doesn't add up. And the other thing that therapists and healers often want to do, or they love doing, is to do another course. So, and those courses are not necessarily cheap. They're costly. So you have to have time for it. You have to have the energy for it, and you have to have the money for it.
And add to that, while you're on the course or doing the work, you can't be working with clients. So it's a double whammy. It's a double
whammy. And yes, and working with people, especially when you're a psychotherapist, but also, my occupational therapists, for instance, they work with children. And it can be draining. It's emotionally draining.
Yeah.
You are giving of yourself and your own energy. So
Yeah.
you have to make sure that your well is well fed, right?
Yes. Self-care.
Self-care is so important, and you need time for that.
Yes.
So by the time you've taken out all the time and the energy and the courses you want to go on, etc., there's actually probably not a lot of time left to work with clients. So you have to charge a decent amount. You know?
I've created a series of journals and workbooks for empaths, and the first book, Harness Your Power as an Empath, starts to look at all of the self-sabotages that people engage in, and not looking after yourself, not believing in yourself, not going on courses, consistently going on courses, and believing that in doing that you are actually serving your business. Now, I need to make something clear. There are times when courses are absolutely appropriate, and that investing in yourself in courses, that's why you and I both create courses for people.
Yeah.
But when people become systematic course goers, but they don't implement what they've learned, and then they don't sort of implement and make it their own and then move on, but just keep going on the courses, then you have to ask yourself the question, is it really that they need to learn, or are they avoiding getting on with their stuff by engaging in course after course after course, which actually doesn't really move them on?
Not in business, no. And often it's again that thing about I have to have the letters after my name. And I'm a prime example of that, because as I've told you earlier, for 20 years I worked in IT, solving business problems, banking problems. But I didn't do a course, and I don't have a business coaching diploma that says I'm a business coach. So I just threw out all that experience. I accounted for nothing. And it was really only when I acknowledged that and said, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I have done, this is what I'm bringing to the table. So it's about acknowledging what you already know and using what you know.
Yeah, very.
Excuse
me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Excuse me as I this. Yeah, I think that's so important. Now, I mean, we're getting close to running out of time, but before we do, the principles of your course, give us the name of your course again, and what are the underpinning principles of that course?
Okay, so it's Master Your Money.
Yeah.
And it's really about anchoring your dream. What is it that you want long term and all of that. It's about getting comfortable with the numbers. A lot of people I find don't show me the numbers. I don't want to know. Just take it away. Getting familiar with your own story, delving into your own relationship with money. Where did it come from? What's been your experiences? What beliefs did you embed? Those kind of things. Then we talk about planning your money. How am I going to spend it? Having a spending plan. But also, how am I going to apply my money? So I'm going to use some to live on, some to save for emergencies, some to put away for the future, and make sure that I'm taking care of all of that. And then compound interest, we definitely talk about compound interest. And then this course also, there is a lot of work about actually building your budget. How are you going to go from where you are now to where you want to be? How are you going to implement the principles that we're teaching? So yes, paying yourself first, budgeting, the magic of compound interest, a framework for spending your money, anchoring your dream. Those are the
brilliant.
Those are
Thank you.
Foundations. Yeah.
One of the things that I always, with my guests, is we belong to B1G1, buy one, give one.
Yeah.
And I think that the act of giving is really important. And
Yes.
B1G1 have created a way of giving where even if you can't afford much, you can actually make a significant impact because they gather each of the little amounts together. So, for example, if they're going to build a school, they will then break that down into the school building is going to last for 10 years and there are 100 pupils there. How much does it cost per day to educate them? And Genuinely You does two things. One is we always ask our guests to choose one of 3 projects. We have 3 projects every month, and we donate on their behalf to their project. We also invite guests to become members of and listeners for that matter, to become members of B1G1. Now, one of the things I love about this particular organisation is that they have a sister organisation that raises all the money for the admin and all of the backroom stuff. So every penny that you put towards a project goes towards the project. And they monitor them and they make sure that the money goes to the right place. So you know that you're not paying for some fat cat to take a big rake off from it. It's going to where it's directed. The other thing about B1G1 is that when somebody joins I joined through Collaboration Global. So my impacts show up with Collaboration Global. So you can actually see how the fertilization of this idea spreads. So you've chosen a project, and your project was to plant trees to increase forest cover. It's very of the moment, isn't it, when you see in the news all of the stuff about global warming and all of these terrible forest fires. So this is a project that's helping setting up plantations within the village area to increase forest cover. A group of users from the respective villages make contributions to clear the land, and the support that we're giving will help to cover the cost towards pit digging, plantations and weeding in the initial phases, as well as providing the saplings and to cover transportation costs. Once the plants have grown fully into trees, the user groups have the right to use the wood and the associated benefits from it to meet their fuel and fodder demands on a sustainable basis. So thank you very much for choosing that.
You're very welcome.
And a reminder to everyone who is listening that however you are listening, whether it's live or to the recording, whether it's the TV or the radio, for every 100 people who listen, we donate a meal to a hungry person. And so just by listening, by sharing, you can make a positive difference. So please do download, share. So I want to be in a situation where I've got to give many, many meals out. But thank you very much. So Riana, just before we go, your websites have been streaming along during this session. Where should people contact you?
It's best to contact me through my www.Riana Avis website. Obviously, the others are also, it's also possible. Yes, I am the woman with 3 websites. It's not ideal.
I've got 4, so I know where you're coming from.
Yes. So you can actually access all my websites from there. So you Master Your Money, the Baobab Way, which is where I blogged for 4 years, and it's a wonderful resource actually. And then, you know, the coaching that I do and all of that is on rianaavis.com, and Smart Women, Smart Money, specifically to help women take control of their money so that money does not control them. And let me just say that on that website as well, there's actually a resource about 10 steps, 10 things that you can do to just increase your abundance towards money and change that energy so that you can attract more abundance. So that's a download that you can go and get for free.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for being such a great guest. The resources are there. Do take note, because when you manage your money and you're in charge of your money and you change those beliefs, you're not only able to heal your own money wounds, but you can also help your family and make sure that the generations that you're bringing up have a very different attitude towards money. So Riana,
Absolutely.
a huge thank you. Don't go away, we haven't finished. See you after the break. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, Riana.
Bye.
You have been listening to Gina Gardner on Leadership for Life. We'll be back after this quick break. Want to get the best out of life personally and professionally? Are you ready to step into a life which excites and fulfills you? Well, the right place for you is Leadership for Life with Gina Gardner on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. We will share with you stories from inspiring people, a wide range of guest experts, and lots of practical strategies to help you get the very best out of your personal and professional life. Leadership for Life is a radio and TV show focused on helping you live a happier, more successful, and fulfilling life. Join international best-selling author, motivational speaker, empowerment and transformational leadership coach and trainer, Gina Gardner, live every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Become the leader of your own life. Gina Gardner's #1 international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success, and Fulfillment, provides you with the foundational principles on which to become the best leader of your own life. It's available as an ebook, paperback, hardback, and as an audio from genuinely-u.com, or also from Amazon. Every one of the principles have been proven to work for the countless people who have used them, including the author. Now, let's put them to work for you. If you're ready to discover your true leadership life design, accelerate your journey with an invitation to join Gina for Leadership for Life VIP Day. Choose your journey of self-discovery where Gina will help you navigate your way to happiness, success, and fulfillment. To find out more, email gina@genuinely-u.com. Welcome back to Leadership for Life. Here is your host, Gina Gardner.
Hello there, and welcome back. Many of you will have seen in the news that there has been a lot about global warming. There are so many forest fires, California, Algeria, right the way around the Mediterranean. There are floods happening, there are extremes of weather. And at the convention that was held by the politicians a few days ago, there was a very stark warning. And the stark warning was that if we want to have a planet that will actually support life, we need to do something now. In fact, we've got to make sure that we are taking big action in order that our children and our children's children have a world to live in. When you look round and you see the wonder of nature, it has the capacity to regenerate. And it's the areas where man has got busy that it has the most challenge and the most difficulty. For many years, people have poo-pooed global warming and climate change, or have left it to other people to deal with it. And many people will say, "It's just me. What can I do about it? I don't have the power to make a difference." That's not true, and it's not true at so many levels. Moment by moment, you make a choice. You make a choice in terms of what you buy. So, for example, if you look at the ingredients and things, palm oil is in many, many products, and yet a lot of the palm oil is not from sustainable farms, and it is decimating the rainforests which help us to breathe. It may be that you drop some litter rather than take it home, or that you choose not to recycle because it's a bit of a bother. Or you take food from the supermarket and you just throw it away because you just waste it because you've forgotten that it was there or that you've gone out for dinner. That you buy so much stuff that you don't use. And what I'm asking you to do is to take responsibility for what you can do to make a change. One of the ways that I'd like to help is that for every comment that people make in the live show, for every comment, we will donate to B1G1 to one of the projects that supports the reparation of damage from global warming. We will do something that will help people have enough to eat. We will help with education. We will help with health. So if you put in the comment, whatever you think, your comments, it can be a just yes, agree, or a question, or that you don't agree. Please put your name, ideally put your email address, and put in either global, food, health, or ed for education with your comment, and we will donate to a project against one of those. You choose. And in that short, small way, you can make a difference. Now, if you're listening to the recording, because it goes to so many different places, then please email me at gina@genuinely-u.com, and in your email say, heard you on the show, please donate to, and we will donate to global, for global warming, food, education, or health. All right, so put whichever your choice of those 4 things in your comment in your email, and we will donate on your behalf. It take you a couple of seconds, couple of minutes, but together we can make a difference. If you are a business owner and you're interested in joining B1G1, please contact me. I'll give you my code, because it would be lovely to see how Leadership for Life as a program can collectively spread the word and make a difference. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't have to cost you a lot. If you are an individual, you can also give through B1G1 in the absolute confidence and knowledge that your money goes directly to make a positive difference. So in your daily life, you can make a difference. And I'm not asking you to spend any money at all. All I'm asking you to do is to engage, to comment to the live show, comment in the comment box. But if you are listening to a download, then email me at gina@genuinely-u.com. It is one way where you can become the leader of your own life. It's one way where you can make a difference. Collectively, we can make an even bigger difference. But you need to take just a little bit of action. Not a lot. And remember, I'm not asking you to spend any money. It's genuinely you that's going to spend the money. But it will do it on your behalf. So please, please take action. Take action in terms of becoming a friend with money, and then a little bit of your money, if you can, to help other people. It not only is the right thing to do, but it also moves the energy. It demonstrates abundance. And my dad used to have a saying that cast your bread upon the waters and it will come back 10,000-fold. It doesn't always come back in the same way or the same time. But we need more kindness. We need more giving in the world. And you can give without having to put your hands in your pocket, simply by engaging. So thanks very much. Take care. I'll see you next week. And remember, you have the choice to become the leader of your own life. Bye-bye now.
You have been listening to The Leadership for Life with your host, Gina Gardner. Make sure you tune in to W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV next Thursday and every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for more Leadership for Life. If you missed any part of this episode or just want to hear or see it again, you can find the archive of the TV show on Talk 4 TV's YouTube channel and the podcast of The Leadership for Life on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever you listen to your podcast.